second chance in the game.
Hello, my name is Scott Heitland. I am the head football coach at Dallas Center Grimes High School in Grimes, Iowa, and it's a real honor to be here today to share some things about our program with you. I want to thank the guys at Chief Pigskin for giving me this opportunity to speak with you today, and I hope that there's something you can take back and look at it and see how it can apply to your program in some way. It may not be something big, it might be something big, but hopefully it's something that you can use to make yourself a little more efficient or a little more successful in the fall. Just a little bit about me. I'm in my 14th season at Dallas Center Grimes High School as the head coach. Prior to Dallas Center Grimes, I had been at Boone High School just north of us for about 5 years. I was at a small school called Prairie Valley for about 3, and then a school by the name of Applington Parkersburg for 2 years as well. So been very blessed to be at Dallas Center Grimes. It's a great place to be. Our school supports all of our athletics very, very well, and we've been blessed to have some football success as a result too. In addition to coaching football, I am an assistant track coach in the spring and have had different experiences coaching middle school basketball, girls golf, a little bit of head baseball as well over the years. So, I've done more than just football, and I think all of those experiences have played well into helping me be the football coach that I am today. Dallas Center Grimes High School, a little bit about our school so you can get an idea of our size and kind of what we do here at Dallas Center Grimes. We are a Class 3A school in Iowa. There are 6 football classes in Iowa. We are in the second largest class. We will be the 48th biggest school in the state of Iowa next year, which puts us about 6th or 7th largest in our class. We are located just outside of the Des Moines metro area on the northwest corner of the metro area, and we're a district that has really been on the go when it comes to growth. As you can see on the statistic on our screen here, in 1991-92, the beds count in Iowa is your top 3 grades and the number of kids in that. And we were at 198 kids, just under 200. And in 2016-2017, we were at 593, and so just below 600. So we're in a place that is growing. There's lots of young families moving to our school, and so that's really allowed us to, when some schools are shrinking, when rural schools are struggling, we've been very blessed to be going in the opposite trajectory. We have 3 levels of football at Dallas Center Grimes. We play a full 9-game freshman schedule, we play an 8-game JV schedule, and then a 9-game varsity schedule as well. We average right around about 100 to 105 kids out for football in grades 9 through 12 every year. And again, it's been a great place for me to be the head coach at. I think one of the things to understand everything that we're going to talk about today is to understand a little bit about some of the principles that are on this slide here. About 5 years ago, we were coming off back-to-back losing seasons. We had a 1-8 year and a 3-6 season. And as we worked into the off season after that second year of the losing season, we sat down as coaches and just really asked ourselves, what are we doing? Who are we? What is our identity? And we just decided and came to the conclusion that we had too many things that we were trying to do. We had too many values and points and just too much stuff, and we had so much stuff we weren't really able to focus on anything, any one thing in particular, and we needed to simplify. And it started with kind of giving our kids an identity of who we were as a football team, and if you're going to be a part of this football team, what is going to be expected of you. And so we ultimately decided to narrow what we felt was important down to 3 things, and we really felt that anybody can remember 3 things if they're important enough, if they're reinforced enough, and if they are short enough. Most kids are going to be able to remember 3 different things. And so what we settled on are the ones that you see here. We started off with the importance of, the first thing is, you got to know what your role is on this football team. And it's our job as football coaches to make sure that we make that very, very clear to you. And if you know what your role is, then number 2, we want to make sure that you know how to do your job. If your role is to be the starting quarterback, then these are the things that you're going to be expected to do that job well. If your role is to be the 3rd string running back, here's what we need from you as well. And so I put a lot of responsibility on our assistant coaches to communicate what their job is week to week so that kids know what they need to do. And we feel if the kid has a clear direction and instruction as to what he's supposed to do, then he's going to be a more productive player for us. And then last but not least, we talk about how important it is to outwork everybody. And it doesn't matter whether it's on the practice field in the classroom, or we're talking about competition between two teammates in practice, or outworking your opponents who are practicing at their home school. You have to outwork everybody. So I feel really good that in the last 5 years, if you walked up to one of our football players in the hall and said, "Hey, what are the key things about being a football player at Dallas Center Grimes?" They're going to tell you that number one, I know what my role is. I'm going to do my job the best of my ability, and I'm going to work really hard doing it. The other reason that we picked these three and that we like them so much is that these are things that should apply to them on the field just as much as off the field. And it doesn't matter whether it's in season, out of season, in the weight room, out in the streets of our community. You need to know these three things. If you're a student in my classroom, you better understand your role there is to be a student. And what's expected of you, you're expected to come to class and to engage and to complete assignments and to study and be prepared. That's your job. So you need to do it the best that you can do. So we really like these three things. We thought they were simple, we thought they were easy to remember, and they applied to us both on and off the field. One of the things that I hope to share with you today by the time we're all done that you are able to take away is a little bit about what we do defensively in the preseason. And so the reason I shared that previous slide first is because everything that we do in practice planning should relate back to those three things that we just talked about. If it doesn't, we should stop and question ourselves as to why we're doing it. And we take this approach because of the conversation we had 5 years ago. We found ourselves doing too many things. We found ourselves not having any real focus or direction. So anything that touches our program, we ask ourselves, is it going to help us to define a role? Is it going to clarify what someone's job is? And is it going to be something that we can reinforce how important it is to work hard in doing it? So when we talk about our preseason planning for defense, we're talking for us a little bit about the first couple weeks of the season. Now, we pride ourselves on being a really strong and really good defensive football team. This last season, we finished the regular season 9-0, and we were giving up 5.22 points per game. And so we feel really good that some of the things that we have in place for that preparation are things that are helping us be successful. And so what I want to share with you today is, what does that first week of practice look like for us? Which a lot of you guys are probably like us. You can't wear pads. You might get helmets, but they're probably non-contact style practices. And so we put great detail into our planning for that week, and we do it really early rather than waiting until just before the season starts to get it done. I'm going to talk to you a little day about the importance of our drill time, which is kind of where everything starts for us. And then I'm going to share with you our favorite install drill that we use the first week of practice. Probably something that a lot of you have either seen or used a variation of it, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit briefly about how we have tweaked ours a little bit to help us get lots of reps and to help keep the tempo very, very high. When you take a look at the quote on the screen here now, it says, "Ooh, I like that, let's do this and that and some of this." This is what I like to refer to as drill grabbing, and we caught ourselves doing a lot of this during clinic time and throughout the summer leading into some of our early season practices. And the reason that we call them drill grabbers is that, it's just kind of like you're grabbing little pieces of this and that and putting them into your practice plan because, you like a little bit about what the drill's doing, but we started finding out that we were just doing drills to do drills. And if you're not doing a drill that relates to something on Friday night and on the game field, if you're not doing a drill that relates to something that you want to, a skill or a technique, then you really ought to ask yourself why you're doing it. And so we work very hard now to ask ourselves, is this a drill that will make us better, and if so, how? And where can I connect it to the game field, and how am I going to explain to one of our players that it's something that's important for them to do? So as we get ready to focus on some of our preseason planning, for us, that making sure that we are focusing on just the most important things is at the front of our mind. But our preseason planning for us is during the first 2 weeks of the practice or of the season. These are usually non-padded practices during camps. We have a 4-day football camp that is just t-shirt and shorts. And then the first week of official practice, we get 2 days in helmets and 3 days on shells. And based on what our state association gives us, we have limited contact, no level 4, level 5 on the USA football levels of contacts. So with these not being game weeks, what we've started to do is take a much different approach to these first 10 or so practices than we have in the past. In the past, our old approach would have been to really work things in detail. We would have a very almost a slow install schedule where we would have introduced maybe one front a day, maybe one front for the first 2 days, and we would have worked with great detail to teach the different parts of it and really rep it over the course of that first couple of days and then move on to our second front. The problem that we started running into was as we got into those game weeks, we started to find ourselves, oh, holy cow, we haven't got this in yet. When are we going to get a chance to review this? And because of that, we found ourselves scrambling a little bit, getting closer to that first game week and maybe not being as prepared as we should be. So our new approach was completely different. And it was one of our, some of our defensive coaches that brought this idea to our staff. And our new approach now is we go 100 miles an hour. And our goal is to install everything in our defensive playbook by the end of the football camp week, which is 4 practices. So it is incredibly aggressive. It was a really big change of thinking for me as the head coach, but over the years as we've done this, we've really found out that it is benefiting us way more than we even imagined. So when we sit down and talk about that first week of practices, that's why so much planning and effort and preparation has to go in the off season, because we don't have to worry about a scouting report. We can put all this stuff in place now, and it's pretty firm leading into that first week. It was a big change of thinking. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist like a lot of coaches, and so it was hard for me to leave practice some nights with something not looking as good as I wanted, but I had to understand and I had to remind myself and the other coaches that, you know, hey, we introduced something new tonight and we got the kids doing this much tonight, and it's going to look better 2 weeks down the road because of that rather than waiting to put it in at a later time. So some of the things we did to adjust with this new approach is, number one, during that off season, and we'll begin this here on the 1st of March, we have a very detailed install schedule. Not that we didn't have one before, but this one is even more detailed than in the past, and I'll go over that here in a little bit. Number two, with everybody having the access to Huddle that they do now, we started using the Huddle playbook and developing installation schedules and installation presentations for our kids, and those are done and ready by June 1st. So our guys can, in early June, begin going on Huddle and reviewing some of the things that we're going to do during football camp. So if we have a 7-on-7 coming up, we might say, hey, you know, we're going to run a little bit of this coverage in our 7-on-7 next week. Why don't you get on Huddle and check it out? And as we get closer to football camp, we let them know, hey, each night of football camps install is on Huddle. Get on there and study up. And I think one of the things that we realized is the kids really responded to that. And, you know, I think most coaches understand this. If you push kids and challenge them, they're going to respond a lot better than you think. And so we had a few people that were a little leery that the kids would take that added responsibility and come prepared. But what we found out is that they have been. And they kind of get together and study this stuff, and they make sure they come up to practice with a basic idea of what we're going to be doing that night. And then the last thing we did is we implemented a lot of pre-practice meetings, especially during camp in that first week when we're not in school. We have the time, we have the facilities in our school to be able to do that. So we meet by position group, go over what we're going to talk about that day, kind of the chalk it, walk it, talk it, run it, you know, approach, and that has really helped us. But the big thing we've done is we've really challenged our players both mentally and in their preparation to respond a little bit. So that preseason planning, again, that's the first 10 practices that we plan out. We try to have everything done by the time summer rolls around. Some of the steps that we follow as we go through that preseason planning, first of all, is we evaluate last year's season like everybody else does, and we figure out, you know, what went well and what didn't. And what we do then is we go back and we look at the schedules, and we look at, did we give that time? You know, if we really struggled in this component of our defense this last year, was it being addressed in practice? Did we teach it early enough, or did we wait too late to introduce it? Once we get those kind of conclusions made, now we're going to go back in and we're going to update our practice templates with all those changes. And again, for these first 10, we're going to go ahead and lay out what we want to do and lay out our segments and even lay out some of our drills. And as we do that alongside with our install schedule, we feel like for at least the first 10 practices, we know that when we get to the end of practice 4, we should be at a certain point and not get to that first game week having something not gone over yet. I think the last thing that I want to point out is the quote at the bottom of the screen here is, you got to remember, if you're going to claim to hang your hat on something, you better make sure that that's reflected in your practice schedule. I've heard a lot of guys talk about how, we're going to be this type of football team, and maybe they are, maybe they're not, but I'm betting if they're not, it's because they're not making it an emphasis during their practices. And so, if it's something that you think is important, remember where you spend your time is going to reflect the things that you value and how you play on Friday night. Once we get our evaluation done and we're ready to start planning out our day-by-day practices, some of the different guidelines that we use, and again, these things are not earth-shattering new ideas. These are things that 99% of coaches are going to do out there, but we're always going to make sure we work things part to whole. We're always going to have our individual, our group, and our team segments. And the things I put in red here are the things that were kind of, again, the new approach to us. We're going to be ultra aggressive with our schedule, challenging our kids mentally, and we're going to let them know that we expect them to be at a certain point by the end of day 1 and the end of day 2, etc. And we're going to set that bar for them and let them know that it's our expectation that they need to work up and meet that expectation where that bar is. We want to create as much chaos in practice as we can. And this is one that we get asked a lot about, what do you mean create chaos? It's kind of like the old Navy SEALs quote, you don't rise to the level of your competition, you fall to your level of preparation. And so, there's so many times during a game on Friday night that something's going to happen unexpectedly, and how are you going to react to it? So we try to infuse as much of that into our practice as we can, creating those unpredictable situations, creating some of that noise and distractions, and just as we call it, create the chaos. Make sure that they can blot those things out and focus on what's important. The more uncomfortable we make them in practice, the more comfortable they'll be on Friday night. So whether it's blaring music during some of your drills to make just to focus on their discipline and them paying attention, making it hard to hear, whether it is during a team segment, throwing out the penalty that maybe negates a good play that they just made, something that's going to try to draw their attention away from what's most important and really help them learn to have that focus during the course of a game. So keep in mind too that when you're at practice, one of the things that you're constantly doing is 2/3 of your kids at practice are coming back next year. Most of your position groups are going to have seniors, juniors, and sophomores, and 2 of those groups are coming back. And so make sure that you are constantly working in practice on developing your kids. Because you've got so many of those kids coming back next year, you want to make sure that you're doing something to help them become better football players. So once we get into, and I'll show you a sample practice schedule coming up here in a few minutes, but once we get into getting our segments set, we're going to put a lot of emphasis right now then on our drill time. And when we get into drill time is something that I as a head coach am very protective of. We are going to have drill time every night, whether it's week 10 or whether it's week 1. It may not be the same amount of time in week 10 that it is week 1, but we're going to have at least 15 minutes of it every night in practice, only because of the point I made just a minute ago. So many of your kids are coming back next year. You can never have enough time working on fundamentals and focusing on the little things that make you be a better football player. So when you're putting together your drills, some of the things I want you to keep in mind is, number 1, always make sure you drill with a purpose. You want kids to understand why we're doing this drill. Where does it connect to them on game night? This is where you're going to benefit from doing this drill. And then that's going to, we believe, increase their productivity in practice. Number 2 is be organized. My coaches should never walk on the practice field without a practice plan in their hand with their drills on it. Be organized. Kids are going to notice that stuff. That's you as a coach knowing what your role is and doing your job right by coming to practice prepared. And so when the kids see that, they know that the coaches are being held to the same standards that they are. But be organized. The players are going to respond really well to that. It's going to create the right attitude at practice that, we go into our preparation and we take it seriously, and we're going to show up and make sure that we follow the plan that we put in place. Because if you follow the plan, you're going to give yourself an opportunity to win on Friday night. And then make sure that, there's nothing that drives me more nuts as a coach than when I look out there and a position coach is ready to start his drill time and he's got some kid running to the equipment shed to grab cones because he forgot to put them out. Be organized. Make sure that you and your coaches think ahead. As the head coach, it's your job to make sure that your assistant coaches have the equipment that they need to do the job that they want to do. At the end of every year, I ask my assistants, what do you need from me at practice? And I'm going to do everything I can to provide them with those tools, whether it's footballs, whether it's dummies, whether it's lineup markers. Who knows? It might be a $5 or $10 fix, but get them the right equipment so they can do their job. And then assistant coaches, you make sure that you have that equipment out at your drill station. We always like to set up ahead of time if at all possible, but if not, it's there. Nobody has to chase it, because when you're chasing it, you're wasting time. And then finally with your drill, create a tempo and an attitude. Drills should be run at a high tempo. From the minute you start the drill to when you finish the drill, make sure that you really are encouraging and demanding those kids to get after it and to really not only compete against themselves but against other people. And do not have kids standing around in line. Drills should be done where you should be getting lots of reps. Kids shouldn't be standing around watching other kids during their drill time. If you're going to stand around and watch and listen, that should be during some group instruction time. So get rid of those lines, maximize your time, and challenge those kids to give their very best. When it gets down to drill, each of our position coaches probably only has about 6 to 8 drills that they do the entire season. And this gets back to what I talked about earlier about being a drill grabber. We're going to pick 6 to 8 drills that we think are very important for that particular position to grow as a player and to help them be successful on Friday night. And so whether it's my running backs coach or my DBs coach, he's going to have those 6 or 7 drills, and he's going to start teaching them night number 1. And by the time we get into week 2, week 3, he should hustle over to his position group, and he looks at them and says, hey, we're going to start star drill. If it's already set up or he sets it up, guys know what the drill is, doesn't have to be explained. We have multiple stations set up so that they can get the most out of their drill time. All these things that I've talked about here about drilling with a purpose, being organized, and creating that attitude and tempo, I think are a whole lot easier if you've got a core group of drills that you do rather than being that grabber of whatever the new cool drill is at a given time. So as we finish up talking about the importance of our drill time, just kind of keep in mind, as it says here on our screen now, your technique and fundamentals should be practiced and should be taught all season long. Probably one of the best pieces of advice I got from one of my mentors was, he looked at me when I got my first head coaching job and he says, Coach, he goes, don't forget to teach the fundamentals. Too many coaches today are worried about what offense they're running or what defense they're running or this play or that play. Hey, none of that stuff works if you don't have good fundamentals. And so if your kids are fundamentally sound in the basics of football and you drill it into them and it's just a part of their football DNA, then you know what? You're going to be in every game on Friday night, and it doesn't matter what that other team runs. If you block and tackle better than them, if your kids understand the fundamental aspects of the game better than them, you're going to come out on top more nights than not. And so that's something else that really gets in alignment with what I've been talking about here about value of drill time and doing it year round. It's so important that you need to do it throughout the entire year. So, when we go back to kind of bringing us up to speed where we are right now, we talked a little bit about how we're going to share with you a little bit about our preseason defensive planning, talk with you a little bit about how we approach some of those meetings, the importance of drill time, and now getting into some of the ways that we install that stuff. Just to kind of review and bring you up to where we are right now, all of our planning and all of the evaluation pieces are done in the off season as early as we can. As soon as those coaches are ready to sit down and start evaluating the season after they've caught their breath, we're going to dive in. What did we do well? What didn't we do well? And then we go back and look at the practice schedules. Did we overlook it somewhere? Does it need to be given more time? And then once we've made those conclusions, we then look at those first 10 days of practice and we put those schedules together now based on that install schedule that we've developed for the coming season. So what I want to show you now is our sample schedule from night number 1 of football from this past year. So on the next couple screens, I'll share with you kind of what that looked like that night for us. hopefully give you an idea to see where we felt like we were taking an aggressive approach to it. But everything you're going to see from here on off was based off of last winter's planning and install schedule. It's going to include all of our segments, individual, group, team, and I'm also going to show you where we install and insert our special teams right away on night number 1. And again, everything goes back to those 3 key beliefs. Everything is geared towards helping us understand, okay, what is our role, doing our job, and then making sure that we are going to outwork everybody. So night number 1 for us a year ago, defensively, included installing 3 fronts. We are multiple on defense. We're probably not going to set in the same defensive front if we're playing you all night. We're going to move around. A lot of it's going to be dictated and determined by you and what you give us offensively. Offensive coaches at the high school level have really done a great job of changing the game in a lot of ways and bringing some of what you see on Saturdays and Sundays to the high school level. And as a defensive coach, if you're going to think you're going to set in one front and one coverage all night, I think it's going to make it really tough for you. And so over the years, as we've seen more and more of these teams be more diverse on offense, we've had to sort of adjust our defense with it. So the defense you're seeing right here on the screen, this is our base 4-3 defense. We call it Miami. And this is going to be one of the 3 fronts that we're going to install on the very first night of football camp. Through the course of the practice, we will we'll at least introduce the alignment, the technique, the responsibilities. We'll take care of that during individual and group time, and then we'll show you what we call formation break and pursuit here at the end of it. But this is our base 4-3 defense. All of these defenses, we don't do any personnel changing in so that we can move in and out of them even without having to run somebody on and off the sidelines to do it. The second front we're going to show them on Friday night, or on that first night of camp, is going to be our stack front. And the only difference between this and our 4-3 that we initially start with, we're going to walk that Sam linebacker up on the line of scrimmage on the tight end side, slide that in down just a little bit, and bring our strong safety into the box. So we're going to put 8 guys in the box here versus 7. And then our last front that we're going to work on night number 1, again, all the same personnel, nobody needs to change, is our goal line short yardage front. And again, same type of thing. We're going to drop that Sam linebacker down to the line of scrimmage, move the strong end in. We're going to drop our will linebacker down on the line of scrimmage, slide our weak end or rush end in, and then bring these 2 safeties down in the box in that goal line or short yardage situation. So what we're looking at here, this is our kind of a sample of what we've got on night number 1. So this is the very first night of football camp. It's just shy of a 2-hour practice, and as you work your way through this, I'll try to explain a little bit what some of this stuff is. But again, this was a practice plan that was put together months beforehand, and what we're looking at here is once we kind of get our introductions and kind of lay things out for the kids and we get our flex done, the defensive group is going to jump into 10 minutes of tackling instruction. And contrary to what some people might think, you can do a ton of tackling instruction and a ton of technique when it comes to tackling without pads on. And so we're going to get right into it. And then you can see we have a huge segment right here of individual time. Now remember, this is a t-shirt and shorts workout. Not even helmets are being worn by us in this situation. So think about some of the things we've talked about today with drill time. Making sure we drill with purpose, making sure that we're organized, making sure the kids understand what we're doing. All of these drills that you see listed here between periods 5 and periods 11 are going to be geared towards helping those position players learn the footwork, learn the technique that they need to be successful at that position. So if you look at this first column here, this is our defensive backs drill time. They're going to spend 10 minutes on footwork. They're going to spend a few minutes on stance and their different back pedals that they're going to use. And then they're going to get into a couple of drills, a cushion drill, and then they're going to continue working some tackle stuff and work their shimmy tackle drill. But notice the last 10 minutes of their individual time, this is where they're going to get into kind of the first stage of our install. And they're going to take 10 minutes and the coach is going to explain to them. We're going to run almost exclusive cover 1 with all 3 of those fronts that I showed you on these previous screens. We're going to run cover 1 here, cover 1 out of our 5, and also cover 1 on the goal line. So we're going to talk a little bit about who we want lined up on what their keys are going to be, so that when we get into the group and team time, they should have a pretty good idea of where they're going. It's never going to be perfect night number 1, but it's been introduced to them once. They'll get it a second time, and then they'll get it a third time when they get into team. I will point out that one of the things that we like to do right away on night number 1 is get our specials installed as well, and at least introduce our specials. So this was probably the one place we caught ourselves scrambling the most as we got to that first week. Geez, we haven't talked enough about this particular type of field goal defense or extra point defense. So you can see right away, these periods up here between 5 and 13 are going to be very high intensity. They're going to be very active. So when we get down to this punt return time, it was put in the place that it was because it's a little bit of a slow it down, let's talk, let's install, talk about alignment, talk about responsibilities. We break it out into small groups for 5 minutes, bring them together as a group for 5 minutes, and at least introduce it. So we can, we've got that in night 1. Our kids at least have had punt return introduced to them night number 1. So tomorrow night, maybe it doesn't have to be as much talking. We're now starting to work those reps a little bit. Then you'll notice down here in periods 17 and 18, we're going to do the same thing with our field goal defense. We happen to know this year that we were going to play a team that was going to have a funky alignment when it came to their extra point. So we introduced it to the kids night number 1. Here's how we're going to defend this. These are the guys that go over here. These are the guys that are going to stay on the center. And so it's in there, and now all we have to do is start to review. So, again, trying to keep with that aggressive approach, putting as much in as we can. When you look at this first night of practice, we're introducing 3 defensive fronts, introducing punt return, field goal defense, and at least 1 cover and probably a couple of linebacker blitzes as well. That's a lot. At least we felt so, and we've been really happy with how the kids have responded to it. So what we're going to get into now is a little bit about how we're going to take those 3 fronts and review them and install and review with the kids on practice night. And what I'm going to show you here is something that we really like because of some of these points that are on the screen. It's really going to reinforce the proper alignment. It's really going to make them think fast and make them react because we've got the same personnel, 3 different fronts. We can really drill a lot of discipline into them. But the other thing it is we can make it a little competitive, and we can make it fun too. All right, so what we have in front of us here on the screen, and let me get it full screen here for you. So what we've got here to get started is obviously this is kind of our front 7 here. This is our linebackers coach and our defensive coordinator. He's got them out. We use a lineup strip. We do this 2 different ways. We might have multiple groups waiting to go on the same strip, and they'll be standing off over here on the sides, just out of view of the screen. And as this group gets done, he sends them off, the next group comes in. Or we might have multiple strips with varsity working on one, JV working on another. If we have enough kids that year, we have 3 groups, we'll get 3 strips and we'll work 3 groups here. But basically what Coach is doing is he's come out, he's called our first front, so he's called out here Miami, and he's given us a strength. He's given them a right strength here. This is our Sam linebacker. Here's our Mike. There's our Will. And what we're checking right here is, did they pick up during their drill time and during their indie time the correct alignment? So he brings them up. We're going to get lined up. He's going to try to bark at them as much as he can, and they're going to go ahead and fire through their gaps. And again, I don't think this is real earth-shattering. I think a lot of guys do some version of this. You see a lot of guys do it with baskets, garbage cans. We just do it with the strip. But what we like about it is it tells us, are they lined up properly? Are they going to their gap? Remember some of the 3 key components we talked about earlier. Know your role, do your job, and then let's work hard at it. So this drill is telling us those 3 things. Do these kids know what their role is right now? So he gives them, changes the strength on them. Real quickly you can see as they hop from one side to the other. Okay, he gives them a left strength this time, their left, not ours. In our strong end and our Sam linebacker switch. Here's our rush end and our weak Will linebacker over here. Really quick, hey, that tells us they know what their job is. Or at least they know what their role is to get to the other side. Now we're going to see if they know how to do their job. Here's the snap, and then can they get to their gaps? So we're going to rep this as much as we can. This is not near the tempo that we would use on a practice night. We are going to go much, much faster than this. We're going to be barking at the kids during the entire time about, hurry up, let's move, let's get set, let's get going. We slowed it down a little bit for the teaching purposes here on the drill. But again, you can see he throws the ball up. They go ahead and drop back into their short pass drops and pass areas. So one last time, he moves them this time. Now they're into our 5. So we see our Sam linebacker walks up on the line of scrimmage over here, and we're going to do the same thing. Now as we get into this third and final clip here, you're going to see him start to move them around a little bit more. And again, they're still sitting in that 5-man front. Out here would normally be our strong safety, would be filling this gap over here. I know these guys don't look real balanced, but it's because we're one guy short for this particular drill. So again, he comes up. He's going to give him a new front. He's going to go ahead. This is a little bit of our 3-4. We inserted this in there for one of the other coaches that was looking for it, but this would be something that would be a night 2 deal. Once we get this done in small groups, then we are going to go to all 11 of them working on this together. This is the one that I think is my favorite, and one of the things that I think is a little bit different. Let me kind of give you an idea of what you're going to see here as we go through some of this stuff. So we've gone from working individual, small groups, the small group one that you just saw there. Now we're going to do the same kind of concept, but we're going to bring the D-backs over this time. And so what's happening is coach is going to, we've got multiple huddles. We might have a huddle over here in the corner, a huddle over here in the corner, or another group on another part of the practice field. But the coach is going to be here in the middle. He is going to call out the particular front that we want. Remember, we've installed 3 of them today, a 4, a 5, and a goal line. So basically a 4, a 5, and a 6-man front. And he's going to call out that defense. But here's a thing that I think is a little bit unique about what we do. He's going to use hand signals to give the kids the formations to see where they want to go. So as you look on the screen right here, he's going to give them a fist, a closed fist to the right or the left. That's a tight end. And so when he gives them a closed fist to his left, their right, they know that they have a tight end on that side of the ball. And so what he's going to do as we start moving this here, right here he just gave them tight end and he put up 2 fingers with the twins. So what we're looking for as coaches is, can we make the quick adjustment? So what we want to see is, we want to see these kids on the field show us that they know what their job is, and the minute he comes up, boom, all he has to do is throw out those 2 fingers and they see that it's twins. Now we debated a long time back and forth, do we need to have offensive guys breaking a huddle? Do they need to see kids doing it? And we came to the conclusion that we didn't. You know, you don't need to have a scout group over here breaking out of the offensive huddle showing them these looks when you can do it, you know, giving them a fist and a number of receivers that they see, because you can move in and out with your hands a whole lot faster than those kids are going to move in and out of the huddle. So right here you can see he gives them a twins, and we see our adjustment. Now he's going to just change it real quick. Here comes trips, and now we see our adjustment. So right away, we as coaches are looking and being able to evaluate, do these kids know what their job is right now? Do they know what their role is on defense when we're in this particular front and we just saw a tight end with the twins? We might see a tight end with trips over there. You know, all sorts of things. Coach can really control and do whatever he wants to try to throw a curveball at them. We talked about making things unpredictable and chaotic. This is a great way for him to be in complete control of that. Now he's going to move them back into twins. We see our adjustment. Now he's back into a tight end set. So all he's done is he's given them a tight end. We were in our forefront. We moved from twins, trips, back to twins, and then back to that tight end. Moves them again. And again, you can see he's controlling it with his hands right here. He's got a fist here. He's got 2 receivers here. Little quick adjustment. We have 2 different adjustments we can make, keeping linebackers in the box or taking a linebacker out of the box. He just worked them through both right there. So now we're going to change the strength. He's going to go to their left, our right. There's our tight end signal. Boom, he just gave them twins. Let's see how quickly they are going to adjust. A little bit better this time. There's trips. Notice the great communication you're going to start seeing here by the linebackers. Look at them pointing and talking. These are things that we want to see. We want to see the kids communicating with one another, taking responsibility and taking control over where they are lining up. Now he's got double twins or 2x2. He's got two fingers up on each hand. We've made our adjustment. Now we're going to go 3x1. Again, getting the kids to adjust. And again, this is a really, really slow tempo for us where we would be working through this. Normally we would be working a little bit faster, making these kids really hustle around and get to the right particular spots. Now we're 5 wide, we're empty in the backfield. He's going to bring them down. Now he shows them double tight. So we just went, in a matter of a split second, we can change without having to bring kids in and out of the huddle. He just went from a 3-by-2, nobody in the backfield, to double tight. And they got to move really, really fast and react to that. So they run up and get into our 6-man front. Now he's going to go ahead, he's going to send them back. Now we're back to 2-by-2. We're making them think, we're making them move. We can, again, the speed that goes into this, we really, really like. Now he's back into a tight end set. So that's really the thing that we spend a ton of time on this particular drill during those first few days of practice, because of the number of reps that you can get and the things that you can review just by coach controlling it. You know, a tight end, twins. Now I'm going to switch it. I'm going to give you a tight end over here, and okay, let's go double tight. And so he can control how much chaos and confusion he brings to them, while at the same time they've got to communicate, they have to react, because let's be honest, you don't know what a team is going to come out of that huddle and do in any given time. So once we get that initial formation break and 11 guys rotating around, the next thing that we're going to get to is we're going to do the same exact drill, but now we're going to add pursuit to it. Every defensive coach wants their kids to fly around and get to the football. And so, you know, this is just your typical pursuit drill that a lot of teams do. You know, we're going to line these numbers up and down the left-hand side. These are cones. They do have a number that goes with them. So we start at 1, work our way all the way through 9. We put them down both sides of the field. They're going to go on about the, depends on what kind of mood we're in. They might go on the numbers. They might go on the hash. We might put them on the sideline sometime. But every kid, as you can see down here below, has an assigned number. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine that previous drill that we just did with our 11 guys reacting and moving within those formations or within those defensive fronts. And then now we're going to introduce the ball, and they're going to come across the line of scrimmage, be given a direction, and then they're going to work on those particular pursuit angles. So again, this is the exact same drill that we just got done doing. He might move them through 3 or 4 different fronts. And then when he's ready, or he thinks that he's drilled them for kind of what he wants this particular rep to be, he's going to walk up with that ball, put it down in front, start barking off a cadence, and when he moves it, they're going to react, and he's going to point left or right, and then they've got to bust their tail to get to that cone. And, again, we're really harping on about speed. We're harping on about taking good pursuit angles, and that's what we're trying to teach right here. So again, going individual to group to whole, this whole drill has started with just these front 7 guys and the coach reviewing on the lineup strip, where's my lineup, and then coming across the line of scrimmage. Then we brought the DBs in, all 11 of them, and we moved them around, okay, kind of doing the same thing we did with the front 7, now with all 11. This would be the next progression in this step. So he's going to get him out here. There you can see he threw out. He's given him the front he wants him to start in, and he gave him a fist, so we have a tight end to their left. They're going to hustle and get lined up as quick as we can. He barks out. He wants them in the 5, so he barks out stack. They adjust because we know we just have a tight end. Now he gives them double tight. So we've seen all 3 fronts right now. Within the first few seconds of this drill, we've seen our 4, our 5, and our 6, and we now know that they know where to go and to line up in those particular fronts. Now he might mess them a little bit, decides to settle with them in the 5, walks up, starts barking it off, and then there they go. Maybe not quite as fast as we want them to, but we'll cut them some slack. This was in March, not during August. Once they get to their cones and we know they're all there, they hustle up front, and next group comes in. So the minute that this group leaves to go to their cones, the next group's coming in. So let's watch it one more time. Again, he's going to determine what front he wants them to start in, tells them what formation they're going to see, how quick can they read and react. We're going to move them through all 3 of them real quick. You can see the strong safety now dropping down into the box. There's our Will walking up against the goal line, short yardage. Moves them up, said hut, 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 hut. Boom, there it goes, gives them a point, and they're off and running. Same type of thing when we go to the left. The numbers might change a little bit for some kids. Some kids' numbers are going to stay the same, but now, this just gives you a visual where you can see where their numbers are, and again, working and teaching those very important pursuit angles as they are related to the game field. Let me pull up the left version of it real quick. I think this one he moves them around a little more, but He's going to go ahead and talk to them, give them a little quick brief instruction here. But normally, again, the tempo is a little quicker in the fall. They were waiting for the video guy here, so here he goes. He's going to go ahead, and there he gives them a tight end. Gives them twins. Let's see them point. We want to see these guys communicate. We want to see them move around as quick as we can. He's going to walk up, give them their motion, and then they're off. Get them to their cones, gives them a whistle, and they bring it down front. As soon as these guys take off running, the next group should be in here waiting and ready to go. There's a separate coach normally in practice that blows a whistle for that group, and then, again, we're off and running. You know, I think the one thing that when you look at this progression, we are really going to emphasize with our kids the importance of finishing everything. Whether it's a drill, the play, the drive, the game, we want to make sure that even in that last part of that drill, when they're taking those cones and they're hustling up front, you know, finish. Get there as fast as you can. You know, we talked a lot about how practice needs to connect to the game field. You're not going to jog on the game field. Don't let them jog on the practice field. And, you know, when you can be really particular about those types of things, they're going to correlate to the game field in a positive way. You know, a couple of things that we've changed over the years that have helped with this. I think one of the best things that we did is, and this is something simple that we didn't even think of until someone showed us this a couple years ago, we moved all of our practice plans over to Google Docs. And because of some of the early planning that we like to do, you know, if you're not using Google Docs for your practices, maybe this is the best thing you can take away from today, because we absolutely love it. But I come in and I set up our entire season along the bottom down here, and you can see all the different games. We've got the entire season from last year. It's plugged in, obviously, because it's now completed. But, you know, when you take a look at the practice plan, the best thing about putting it on a Google Doc is that what you have is anybody can go in and edit it. And what was driving us nuts is that, you know, I always had the coordinators, they had to turn in practice plans to me by Monday at 10 a.m. And so they had to get to their position coaches. They had to have them email them their drills. They had to put them in the spreadsheet, because everybody goes out to practice with this spreadsheet in their hand. But now putting it on Google Doc, I don't know why we never thought of this, but now each coach can go in and he can enter his stuff right here on the document itself. Nobody has to take care of anybody else. They have to be entered by 10 o'clock on Monday. I come in and I print it, and everything's waiting in the practice room for our guys. So I think that's been a really good thing that has helped us a little bit. The other thing that's really helped us is we bought a segment timer for practice. And, you know, as you can see from our practice plan, if I click back here just a little bit, you know, we've got everything broken out in 5-minute segments. And this really helped us because it helped us organize practice in a way that when that horn sounds, it's time to move on. And when you get into wanting to be efficient with your practice time and practice at a high tempo, when that horn goes off, you got to move on to the next drill. If you didn't get it done, you better go figure out when you're going to go back and review it a little bit tomorrow. And then the last thing for all you head coaches out there, make sure you delegate your responsibility. If you've got good assistant coaches, find a way to get them involved and give them some responsibility. It'll allow you to focus on the things that you want to do a little more, and it'll make those guys feel like they're a little more invested in what's going on with your team on Friday night. Kind of some final thoughts here as I wrap up, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch today. But, you know, as I put here, from one coach to another, don't underestimate the impact that you can have on the kids at your school. And remember, the least important thing that you teach them are the X's and O's. The most important thing that you teach them are really important core values, like being responsible, committing themselves to the team, putting the team before themselves, making sure that they understand what it means to overcome adversity. I think football teaches the values that they need later in their life better than any other sport out there. And so don't forget to take every advantage of every opportunity to teach those things to your kids. I encourage every head coach and assistant coach out there, find a good book and read. You know, I love the quote that says, leaders are readers and readers are leaders. And if you don't have a good book to read out there, go ask somebody what a good book would be. And you'd be surprised at different things you can take from some of those books and apply to your football team or apply to your staff. Right now, the book that I'm just finishing up this winter is Chop Wood, Carry Water. And it was a book that was suggested to me from somebody, and it's been phenomenal. And lastly, don't forget to promote your team and promote the game. Football's in a unique position right now. We're being attacked on many different levels, I guess if you want to call it that, or being challenged on many different levels. And who better to promote the game and to promote your team than you as the head coach in your community? Find ways to put football into your community 12 months out of the year. You know, it's easy during football season. August to November, it's easy to keep football in people's minds. The challenge is December to July. And so find some different ways for you to promote football in the off season. You know, have a football night at a basketball game where your team comes and maybe they are going to come and help do something special in the student section. Take a night at a wrestling meet and maybe award the wrestlers who are football players, recognize them for All-State, academic All-State, whatever it might be. In the springtime, get out and do a small community service project with your football players. Spring's a great time. Spring cleanup, that people are always looking for a little muscle. And then whenever you have the opportunity, talk to your parents, talk to your community groups, get out there and tell them why the game of football has never been safer than it is today. There's a lot of people talking about the dangers, but the technology, the research, the techniques that are being taught by us as coaches have never been better than they are right now. I just want to say thanks again to Chief Pigskin for giving me the opportunity to come and talk today. If you have any questions or would like to follow up with me, you can see my contact information on the screen right now. It's a real honor to be able to come and talk not only about football but about our program. And I hope that there was something that you felt that you could take away from this presentation today to use with your team. Best of luck to everybody out there next year, and may you all find your seasons ending up in the playoffs. Thank you.